a lot of times people's like anxiety is because they are anticipating having anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're doing so much stuff and like overthinking every possible thing because you're trying to avoid a potential feeling in the future.
Welcome back to the Illuminated Path. This is episode 85. What are we talking about today?
How to stop overthinking everything.
Love it.
People love to overthink. We're skipping chatters. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Overthinking is something that so many people do, and it goes back to your nervous system, your your brain just running on autopilot and running on thoughts and beliefs that you have, and like trying to keep you safe when you might be in a dysregulated state. So this is something that you might do. It's like a coping mechanism because when you're overthinking, you're trying to sometimes like be in control. So you're trying to think of every possible scenario so that you have control based on anything that might be something that happens.
Yeah. I think, for me, there was so much like paranoia in my past. And I was constantly in hypotheticals and trying to like always plan for the worst case scenario.
Right.
And I was always like, oh, I'm just trying to be prepared. I'm just being realistic. But like in reality, I was living in fear of like the worst possible thing happening.
And then you come up with 99 scenarios, and there's only one possible scenario that you might not even have thought of the,
Yeah.
the actual truth. So why do we overthink? I just said it really is like your nervous system is on high alert. Something is off, and it might have a lot to do with like how you're taking care of yourself in general, why your nervous system is so off. If you're not sleeping good, it's more likely that you're going to be overthinking things when you're exhausted, not eating well, not exercising. Like there's so many things that contribute to a regulated nervous system that if you're not doing the basics, then it can be very common for you to be in this dysregulated state and be overthinking things just constantly.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we still drank, like I would overthink way more. I noticed it when I had been drinking recently.
Mm-hmm. I would always be super anxious the day after.
Yep. Next like
And
2-3 days, I would just be mentally off, even if I felt okay physically again, just not like as sharp.
yeah. So fear is often a huge one that is like the feeling behind this and the thing that is driving this overthinking. Like you were saying, you're often creating these hypotheticals, planning for worst case scenario because again, like you're trying to keep yourself safe. That is your nervous system thinking, well, they're thinking of all these scenarios, so we got to try to keep ourselves safe. And it's just driving like all of your actions, all of your thoughts, and you're just constantly in that overthinking mode because you're afraid.
Yeah.
Maybe you're afraid of failure, afraid of being embarrassed, afraid of being taken advantage of being judged, afraid of being successful. All of these different fears, like there's so many more that there could be, but you're thinking of all of these scenarios and things because you don't want to experience these potentially like not nice feelings, right? It doesn't feel great to be embarrassed. So
Right.
you're like, well, let me overthink this scenario 100 times to try to be in control of possibly maybe feeling embarrassed.
And like act like you're protecting yourself.
Right. Lack of self-trust. So if you are someone who doesn't really trust yourself, like trust your ability to make decisions, trust like just really have full trust in yourself that you're making good decisions based on what you truly want. If you're not, you're always looking to other people to make decisions for you, or you're just super indecisive, you're going to overthink like, okay, well, I have to make a decision. I have these decisions, and what's, you're trying to predict the future again, instead of like just being in the present moment and fully trusting that in your gut and your intuition, you are making the right choice. And that can, have a lot to do with like keeping promises to yourself and following through on things that you say you're going to do when it's only really affecting you. Like, I promise I'm going to go to the gym and work out, and I promise I'm going to do these things, and then you follow through with them. But if you're not doing them, then you're probably lacking some of that self trust. And that's going to create more reasons and scenarios to be overthinking.
Yeah, and I think the thing with self-trust too is like, I think we've talked about this a little bit in other episodes, but you have to like work that up and start to follow through and show yourself that you do, follow through and keep your word. And I think it's especially important that you keep your word to yourself. As someone who never kept his word with anyone, including myself, it took a long time to get back to that. And that's a long process, but doing it is important work.
Yeah. Are you maybe coping to avoid emotions? Like I said, like if you are afraid of feeling an emotion, a lot of times people's like anxiety is because they are anticipating having anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're doing so much stuff and like overthinking every possible thing because you're trying to avoid a potential feeling in the future that you haven't even gotten to yet and don't even necessarily know if like the situation's actually going to cause that.
Yeah.
But you're sending yourself in a spiral and just like keeping yourself stuck there. And
Which is all happening in your head.
right.
Like none of that's actually happening.
So that's, I say it a lot like, don't believe every thought you have.
Right.
Overthinking is just having a lot of thoughts, and majority of them are not true. And
Yeah.
so you got to be present and be able to recognize that.
And a lot of like experts love to tell people about this idea of anticipatory anxiety. Like you're just thinking ahead. You're just in your head. Get out of your head. Like do something.
Out of your head into your body.
Yeah.
I hear a lot, especially from like somatic practitioners.
Yeah.
If you are in your head, then you need to like get in your body. You got to like get your body is like what really makes you grounded and present in the present moment.
Yeah.
And if you're not living presently, then yeah, of course, like your head is elsewhere. Your
Right.
head is 3 days away from now.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, so like it's not that you are necessarily someone who's indecisive or unable to make decisions. It's like you might not feel safety. Why do you not feel this safety? Like having that awareness of, what are these beliefs coming from and why? Again, like maybe it's from your past beliefs or your past programming, things people have told you in the past. Um, so you need to be able to recognize these things and say, oh, that's where the overthinking is coming from. This isn't necessarily true.
Yeah.
Um, and, overthinking things is really just giving more power to like the problem or to something that's not even necessarily a problem, but that you're creating it into a problem.
But even, where attention goes, energy flows. If you're overthinking about a potential problem, you are actually working on creating that problem, bringing that problem into your life and into your reality.
Yeah. So ways that you can work on stopping the overthinking. Like I said, awareness is the first step. I mean, awareness is always the first step. You have to realize that you're doing it. Um, and that you are trying to predict the future or try to figure out what outcome may or may not happen. Like you can only control your present moment. You can plan things for the future, you can hope for things for the future, but you can't control every aspect of it. So sitting there overthinking about things in the future is really going to get you nowhere but wasting your time today.
Yep.
I saw this as a potential option was like setting a decision timer. I've never tried this, but I liked the idea.
What is that?
Like give yourself a timeline. I have to make a decision for this certain thing that I've been overthinking or been indecisive about by this date
Mm,
or this time, or I have 2
interesting.
hours. Whatever the case is, like
Yeah.
give yourself a timeline and stick to it and just say like this is the decision and then you got to move on from it.
Mm,
Practice being okay with imperfection. We talked about this a little bit in the last episode. To You know, done is better than perfect. Is that what you said?
No.
No?
What did you say? Done is better? No, that's not it. Embrace good enough, I
Good
think
enough.
was the quotes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, again, like I always think about when we went to California. I released my first song and we got to wake up in LA and my music was on streaming platforms. And that was like the big moment I wanted to have. I mean, saying it now, I have chills because that was like my dream.
It was
I
cool.
wanted to feel like an artist in LA. Um, and that was close. I mean, I can sit here all day and tell you everything that is wrong with how that song was mastered, how I engineered things wrong. I even looked back in the session. There was stuff I messed up, like just blatantly incorrect. Um, but at the end of the day, like I think we released it. We published it like that night before we flew out.
It was very close, yeah.
And like I never would have had that opportunity if I was like, it's not perfect. I can't do it. I can't get it done in time. And I reached the point of like, I'm embracing good enough, because for me, that was the start of a beautiful journey. If I was like, it's not perfect, I can't do it, I would have missed that whole experience.
Yeah.
So every time I think about good enough, that's what comes into my head.
Yeah. I like it. We talked about keeping promises to yourself and following through because when you do that, you continue to gain confidence and you continue to gain that self-trust. You don't just like have confidence. It's not just like something that
Mm,
some people just have and it's like it's a feeling that comes from your thoughts about the actions that you're taking. So you have to build that confidence. You have
it's
to
just
actually
like
do things.
trust and respect. It's earned, it's built. It's not just freely given in there.
And if you look at people and you're like, "Oh, it's easy for them. They're so confident." Well, they're probably faking it.
Mm, yeah,
Or they've done a lot of the work and they do have the confidence now because they've proven it to themselves and they're like, "Yeah, like I
yeah.
am this person that I say I am."
Yeah, and it's easy to look at someone and be like, "Oh, they have it so easy." It's like you have no clue what goes on behind that person's face in their head,
Their brains.
nor do you know what their home life or their childhood or their background or their career looks like. So I think it's so easy to compare, but again, it's like that conversation. The grass is greener where you water it. You know, confidence is not you're an attractive person, so you must be confident. Like,
I was just going to say like so many people tie confidence to looks.
mm,
And it's like, yeah, you might think that person is really good looking, but they probably have a lot of negative things to say about themselves. Unfortunately, we are our own worst critics.
yeah,
And, I've had people say things to me like, "Oh, you're so skinny," or whatever. Like,
yeah,
okay, that doesn't just automatically bring me confidence in other areas of life or whatever.
right. Absolutely.
And going along with that is celebrating small wins. Like when you are taking those actions and proving to yourself and keeping those promises to yourself, you gotta like recognize it.
Yep.
You're the only person that's gonna do that for yourself. So don't look for the external validation. Yes, it's great to like have supportive friends, supportive partner, whatever, but ultimately external validation from all your loved ones in the world is still not enough. You have to like celebrate yourself and be happy with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to validate yourself. If you're always looking for validation from someone else and you can't validate yourself, then you're always going to rely on someone else for approval. Um,
Yeah.
and again, shared this in the last episode, but I love the statement. Alex Hermosi, he says, create a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
If you're having trouble believing it, or you're, really holding yourself back, whatever that is, struggling with imposter syndrome, or you're just overthinking a situation because you don't like, I don't know, something that's happening or how someone's behaving or something not going in your favor, like it just comes down to how you're handling the situation, and what you're doing to be the best version of you. To tie that back in, because I feel like that got a little sidetracked. Celebrate small wins, right? So if you are working on who you say you are, you celebrate the progress that you're making
Right.
and do it for yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, it is something that takes like effort to be able to do that because if you didn't grow up like knowing how to do that for yourself, you have to practice that. So many of us
Yeah.
like looked for the external validation from our parents or teachers,
Yeah.
whoever, and I think that's more of the norm. So,
Right. Is the drawing good? Is the homework good? Did I take, test well or whatever?
and I've shared this in a past episode a while ago, but that's why like I hope to, plan with our children like if they show us something like look at this drawing, do you like it? I'm gonna be like, do you like it?
Yeah.
Like you have to ask them first and let them recognize themselves and get excited about it and be like, "Yeah, awesome."
Right.
And not comment so much on like the, "Oh, it's good."
Yeah.
It's more about like, "Well, how do you feel about it? That's great that you feel that way. That's
Right.
awesome. You should feel that way."
And I think the thing there is like people are like, oh, well, I don't want to encourage them if it's bad, but it's like that's the journey that they go on. Like they try it, and if they do it until they don't get satisfaction out of it. If that child continues to get great satisfaction out of drawing, they're gonna get better and better and better and might become an artist.
Right.
If they have their parents critiquing it and saying, well, this isn't very good, this isn't very good, they're gonna get discouraged and they're not gonna keep doing it.
Right. Not to mention like there's so many different forms of like art like,
Yeah.
there's plenty of different music that you and I hate. And
Yeah.
guess what? That person has fans.
Yeah.
So same thing with art. You
Yeah.
draw a line on a paper and it's making thousands of dollars at
Yeah.
an art gallery. Who am I to say that it's bad or good? I'm
Yeah.
not, because that person believed in themselves and they did it. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like, there's always going to be different opinions. So just feeling good about it is more important than like something being inherently good or bad.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, and then this one kind of goes with what I said, but just like make a small decision without second guessing it. Like practice these things. I talked about this in another episode before. Like,
Just go to a restaurant
yeah,
and like pick what you want off the menu and stick to it.
don't ask for opinions from the table. Don't ask what everyone else is having. Don't ask for opinions from the waiter or waitress. Like,
Yeah.
these are like the small everyday steps to practice trusting yourself and your ability to make decisions and to stop overthinking things.
Being decisive, building that confidence, following through and keeping your word with yourself. Like it seems so simple to go to a restaurant, pick something off a menu, but there's a relationship with yourself that is constantly at play and constantly changing and developing. And your behavior and the words you use with yourself, the decisions you make, the actions you take are all impacting that relationship.
Yeah, I really liked how you rhymed make and take there.
Wow, I didn't realize I did that. Thank you. Be right back. I gotta go make a song.
Oh, goodness. I think that's all I got on overthinking. So, guess what? If you want to stop overthinking, you have to practice.
Yeah,
Practice being decisive and doing these in like small increments and believing that you can do that. So,
absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
thank you.